two of my absolute favorite things to talk about in the world: saving money and ultralight backpacking gear. That's right, we are combining the two, and today we are talking 5 of my favorite pieces of budget ultralight backpacking gear. And the very first piece of gear that we are going to talk about today is the Ziploc freezer bag. Even if you're not someone who's looking to go ultralight with your backpacking gear, adding a couple Ziploc freezer bags to your backpacking kit can help in so many different ways besides just shaving weight. And one of the big reasons I've gone with Ziploc freezer bags over just plain Ziploc bags for most of the applications that we're going to talk about is they're just a little bit thicker and more durable. I just use Ziploc freezer bags for storing almost all of my smaller items that I do like to kind of keep separated. And we're talking stuff like my little shit kit, my first aid kit, my electronics kit, my toiletries kit, on top of adding another little waterproof barrier to some of my important gear like my first aid kit and my shit kit with the toilet paper in there. I definitely do not want to get that wet. Aside from only weighing 1/4 ounce or 6 grams, the advantages of using a Ziploc freezer bag for stuff like your first aid kit becomes pretty evident when we start looking at my first aid kit. If I'm looking for something in particular, it makes it a lot easier for me to find exactly what's inside here. For me, something like a first aid kit where the only time I'm really going to be using it is if I'm gonna, be patching up a blister on my foot or some kind of emergency comes up. I wanna be able to see what's in my first aid kit and be able to dive in right away, find what I need, and not be wasting time hunting around trying to find something inside my first aid kit. I just find that using the Ziploc freezer bags makes it so much easier. I also do carry a larger slide lock Ziploc bag as a garbage bag. I carry this inside my food bag, and when I start putting garbage in it, I carry it on the outside of my pack. Obviously, I do hang this with my food at the end of the night and everything else that has smells. You can also take your prepackaged dehydrated meals and take them out of the much heavier packaging that they come in and put it inside of a Ziploc freezer bag, and you are okay to use boiling water with Ziploc freezer bags. So another benefit of that is you can actually rehydrate your food inside a Ziploc freezer bag. So you can even use Ziploc freezer bags to help yourself get rid of the bulky packaging that some of your pre-made dehydrated meals come in. Switching from convenience to style, the next piece of gear we're going to talk about is the Frogg Toggs Ultralight Rain Jacket. Hands down, one of the best bang for your buck pieces of ultralight backpacking gear anybody can add to their kit. At 5 1/4 ounce or 150 grams for the medium-sized rain jacket, you're not going to find a better rain shell out there on the market at the price point for the Frogg Toggs. You can pick these up for about 20 to 25 bucks Canadian. I will put links in the description down below for all the gear we're talking about today. Now, the Frogg Toggs jackets are pretty plain Jane. There's really not a whole lot to them. They've got a zipper down the front with a little storm flap. You've got a hood with a little cinch cord and little toggle so you can kind of cinch the hood around your head. You've got elasticized cuffs around your wrists, and that is pretty much it. So I find the Frogg Toggs jackets kind of fit a little bigger, and I actually like that. It's really nice for being able to layer up underneath the jacket. So on those cool mornings in the Rockies, I do like having the Frogg Toggs jacket to throw over top, help hold a little bit more heat in, help keep me a little bit warmer. I absolutely love my Frogg Toggs jacket. I've been using the Frogg Toggs jackets for a couple years. Absolutely love them. At the price point and functionality of the Frogg Toggs rain jacket, you really cannot go wrong. This next piece of gear we're going to talk about is probably not going to be anybody's first choice in pieces of gear they changed when they kind of started going towards ultralight backpacking. And for me, that's definitely the case. This was not one of the first pieces of gear that I switched over, but it's a piece of gear that I'm glad I switched over because I use it with every single setup, every single backpacking trip I go on. I take these guys with me. We're talking about titanium tent stakes. Now, for myself, I prefer the shepherd hook tent stakes. These are the Boundless Voyage titanium tent stakes, and these guys are ridiculously light. They weigh about 1/4 ounce or 6 grams a piece, and I picked up a pack of 12 of these for about 20 bucks on Amazon. And like I mentioned before, I'll put links in the description down below if you guys want to check out any of this gear. Switching over to the shepherd hook stakes, I was using the MSR mini groundhog stakes, and I don't know if you can tell here on video, but this one here is a little bent up. Like it happens with aluminum tent stakes, they will eventually start to bend, they will eventually break, and they snap. And as I kind of started running out of groundhog stakes, I started looking into getting replacement stakes, and I was just going to order some of the groundhogs, and these are great stakes, but let's face it, Matty's a cheap ass. So I decided to pick myself up a set of these Boundless Voyage titanium shepherd hook stakes. Like I said, I picked up 12 of these for about 20 bucks. I've been using these stakes for about 4 years now. No issues whatsoever, and I do still have all 12. I have not bent a single one. I haven't broken a single one. So if you're looking at replacing some tent stakes, or you're just at that point in your ultralight backpacking gear evolution that Tent stakes is the next thing to upgrade. Definitely take a look at some of the budget options out there. There are some great tent stakes out there for a fraction of the cost of the higher end brand name stuff like the Groundhogs. This one here is a little painful to talk about. If you guys don't know what's inside the stuff sack here, this is my 3FUL leaning tower or Lanshan 1.5P, whatever you want to call it. This is my 1.5P trekking pole tent. And the reason why it's a little bit painful to talk about this here is because, as many of you guys and gals know, I am an avid hammock camper, and I honestly don't have a budget hammock setup to talk about. I know in the past some people have mentioned the Ridge Outdoor Pinnacle hammock. From what I can tell just by researching it, it looks like a fantastic budget option. It's not something that I have picked up, but hey, if anybody has any connections with Ridge Outdoors and you guys want to, you know, tell them to fire Matty a Pinnacle hammock to check out and review on the channel, I would definitely do that. But I do not always get to camp in my hammock, and that is where this comes in here. If hammocks are permitted in an area, I am 99.9% of the time going to take my hammock, but there are some absolutely gorgeous places up here in the Rockies where hammocks are not permitted, and this tent comes into play. This tent here is part of the famous Lanshan line by 3FUL Gear. Highly regarded as some of the best bang for your buck budget ultralight tent options out there. Price point in this guy here, 130 bucks US. Where this becomes a fantastic budget option, I know for some people 130 bucks US for a tent may seem a little bit steep, but to get a tent of this quality for that price point, you are not going to find that anywhere else. You really can't beat it. It's a trekking pole tent, so you end up shaving some weight that way. I like this one in particular because I do backpack with my dog, so the 1.5P gives me the ability to fit myself and the dog inside the tent with tons of room, and it only utilizes one trekking pole. I don't ever backpack with two trekking poles. I was a walking stick person for the longest time, so I like one trekking pole. It's another advantage of this tent. I've done an entire video on this tent here, and I've also done a video on how to set this tent up here, which kind of goes over just the basic setup of a single pole trekking pole tent. So if you guys are interested in either of those, I will link those at the end of this video, so stick around for that. This next piece of gear we're going to talk about is my absolute favorite piece of budget ultralight backpacking gear, and that's because I made it myself. And we're talking about my Fancy Feast cat food can alcohol stove. This guy is ridiculously light, comes in at about 24 grams or 3/4 of an ounce. It's lighter than the BRS 3000. No, this is not going to boil water near as fast as the BRS 3000. A can of Fancy Feast cat food, a can of tomato paste, and then inside here, wrapped around the can of tomato paste, is just some carbon felt. Price on this thing was about $2.50. $1.50 for the can of cat food, $1 for the can of tomato paste. I used the tomato paste and made pizza sauce and had pizza that night, and I gave the cat the food out of the cat food can, so absolutely none of it went to waste. And I am a plumber, so I actually had a spare piece of carbon felt kicking around, so that didn't cost me anything. No, it's not gonna set records, and it's not gonna beat the BRS stoves or the jet boils, and ugh, who orders jet boils? Those things are disgusting. It's not gonna beat those in a race. But to me, it's just freaking cool. You know, I made it myself. It's a little bit different than what everybody else out there is rocking. You know, as I mentioned earlier, I've got two different videos on my 3FUL Lanshan tent, and I will slide those up right over here for you guys. So when you guys are done watching this one, head on over there, check out either of those videos. And as always, guys, I am Matty. Thank you guys so dang much for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.